Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the multi-award-winning Go-To Food Pod, and I'm with the multi-award-winning genius here. We should say this is brought to us by Blink, the greatest POS system in the world. I hope Mario's going to get it in all his restaurants. They're going to get out to America eventually.
Are they? I don't
Trust
even
me.
know. Okay, great.
We'll talk about that later.
We look forward to it.
But we are joined by one of the most influential chefs, restaurateurs of the last decade, Mario Carbone, the genius behind the Major Food Group, who are responsible for like 50 great restaurants, bars, hotels. They're everywhere, and they're genius at everything they do. He previously worked at some of the greatest restaurants in the US and even in Italy before launching his first restaurant in 2009. We're going to get into all of this, but Mario, welcome to London. You've just arrived. I've got you a Bloody Mary from Café Francois.
Fantastic. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much for coming. You've just come in on the red eye, right?
Yeah, I need this.
Mate, have a little sip. It's beautiful. I said Ben's normally here, but he's left me. He's gone on holiday.
Oh, good and spicy.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it?
Nice.
They were shaving horseradish. You know, like Love Actually, that sort of jewelry scene. It was like that. It was a beautiful thing to watch.
Delicious.
So thank you to Café
Needed
Francois. You're in on the red eye.
Yes, sir.
How good does it feel to be in London?
It feels great. It's a bit warm, but
Yeah.
it's always great to be here. Trying to pack as many things as I can get done in a few days. So I'm excited to be here. Excited.
So you're here. You were telling me off air for the launch of the Sinatra musical.
Yeah, tonight is opening night of Frank Sinatra's musical.
So exciting.
That's being done in part by his family and estate. It's starting here on the West End before it gets to Broadway.
Beautiful. I know you're a big fan of London, a big cigar man.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to have time to enjoy a couple of cigars here?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah? I'm going to go visit my friends over at Souter.
That's the place to be.
On Mount Street. Those are my friends.
Oh.
So it's a good excuse. There is actually no better excuse to kill an hour than that.
Oh mate, it's the best thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're just meters away from the famous Borough Market. I don't know if you've ever been to Borough Market before.
I have been through it. It can be you got to choose
crazy.
wisely what day you go there.
Yeah, it can get horrific.
Yeah.
There's a nice restaurant spotting up there. I know it's a bit of a sort of tourist trap at times. There are some nice little places spotting up, a couple of Michelin places as well. But I want to ask you, when you're in London, just to kick us off, where do you like to eat apart from your incredible restaurant, obviously?
Well, I've built up a list of places, and I think it's the constant sort of conundrum of traveling: is do you go back to a place that you love, or do you keep trying new places? When you're here. Yeah, but you have some of these meals that you remember. Like I remember my first meal at Dorian, and thinking this must be the best restaurant in London. Like it was just an exceptional meal, and I keep wanting to go back, but I also want to try lots of other places. I'm going to Claire Smith's new restaurant, Cornucopia, tomorrow night.
That's going to be good.
So I'm very excited to eat her food there and see that.
What was it about Dorian which blew your mind?
I like how... I like the chances that they're taking. I think they're not necessarily just cooking to try to make sure that the restaurant is full. Yeah. He's cooking, and really with great execution.
Well, he's just announced he's leaving. So
I heard that.
You going to work together? Can you give us an exclusive on the Go-To Food Pod?
He's not leaving to work with us.
Oh,
I wish he was.
I thought you'd nabbed him up, Mary.
I wish he was.
I also read that you like the Devonshire, the Fat Badger kind of vibe. I mean, obviously, and we're going to get into it, you bought this amazing American theatric, amazing food, but like a new way to dine. And I know there are other places, the Dover and places like that, which are also successfully doing it in London. But what about the pub kind of vibe? Is that something which you could take? Because we've had a lot of imports from America. And
you're starting to see it. I mean, we don't have it necessarily in construction, but you are starting to see pubs popping up with proper food in the States as well. I absolutely adore the Devonshire and Ocean, the owner. He's incredible, and places like Fat Badger. But just I find that category of restaurant, it's very very homey. When executed at a high level, it's very hard to beat that environment.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the trattoria of Italy, the pub dining of the UK, and it's just incredible when done well.
Have you had time to go to the Dover? I mean, obviously, maybe a closest kind of syndication or copy of what you guys were doing out in New York.
I have been to the Dover because there was so many comparisons, early on. I didn't find it that similar to us. I think that they're doing their own thing, and I think that there's more than enough room for both of us, certainly. But I was surprised how little I found in common between us and them, given that it was something that was a conversation early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they're doing their own thing, and it's really not it's not phased our enthusiasm at all.
No. You've several different offerings under your obviously incredible food group. Jeremy King, who's been on the show, was saying that he goes to a building, he finds a building, he listens to the building, he then writes a fake story about it, and that's what sort of dictates what the offering is. What's your kind of creative process behind launching a kind of different brand? Or
Yeah, I don't think that dissimilarly from him. I would say I do think that there is a certain amount of thematical theatrics that's involved in these great restaurants, and I try to craft a very, very tight story and narrative and theme for myself and then for the team and eventually for the customers. But it starts with us as we're building these things. So I do think that I've always felt that restaurants and theater, actually, surprisingly to the beginning of the conversation, I think that those two styles of art are very, very closely related. You know, we do this theatrical performance every night at the exact same time in costume for a different audience, with the same menu virtually, telling the same jokes, the same tables. It's very theatrical, trying to put on a very believable performance for your guests. So I find a lot of what he says also true.
yeah, because obviously the giant menus, the crisp uniforms, the drama, it does feel like you're walking into a set, or sort of escaping.
It's a period piece, yeah.
Escaping your mediocre lives for a couple of hours. But do you know what I mean? And then suddenly you can live in this fake world, which is of wonderment.
Yeah, the goal is transportation, and the world is this sort of mid-century fine dining Italian American thing that was born outside of Italy, right? So that by nature, it's this hybrid cuisine and hybrid style of culture that I grew up with in New York, and we sort of resuscitated it in New York, not dissimilar to what's happening with the sort of pub scene in the UK right now. It's an indigenous thing that's being resuscitated and brought back to life in hopefully its ideal form.
Yeah.
And we did that in New York, and then through popularity, we were able to sort of export it, around the globe, which has been really, a wonderful and very humbling journey that I've gotten to do that.
But did it feel like, when you walk into your restaurant, it's almost sort of like Ray Liotta's, like Goodfellas. Like there is something where you just, even more so than other places, it's like a real extreme, isn't it? You are walking onto a Hollywood set.
That's the best compliment I can get. I tried to take a bit of a director's approach to it. Like to believe I consider all the details. And if you're pretty manic about considering all of the details, then you are creating a set. And when the guest opens the door, it's sort of that great back entrance of Copacabana Goodfellas scene when Ray Liotta enters, and that whole scene's a minute and a half long. I've got 6 hours to do it. It's got to go all night. Hundreds of people walking in have to feel like Ray Liotta. So the movie's just got to be going at all times. Someone's lighting a flambe in the corner, a waiter's carrying a tray over his head, and a joke's being told at the table, and there's a certain aroma in the room, the music's playing, the lights are right. Like it's an entire movie set.
So how much of that is direction? When you go to like an interactive theatre, because it kind of feels like it's sort of interactive theatre cosplay almost, like people are walking around, like how much is directed and how much is natural, if that makes sense?
There's a certain amount that is part of the training. I don't want to call it a script because it's not word for word, but there is a cadence to it. There's a cadence to how your waiter addresses the table. There's an intentional conversation happening. It's not just someone coming over and rattling off the specials or how the menu is laid out. It's really much more of a conversation intended to put the guest at ease that we know what we're doing. Your waiter is in control tonight. I'm comfortable with navigating this big menu with this person. And there's so yes, I think along the way, there are little cues that we give in the training that add to the spirit of the room. But then over time, each waiter becomes their own. They fall into their own personality of who they are, and the restaurant starts to wear in and take shape. But yeah, I would say there's a good amount of it that is preordained and thought of.
Why are they known as captains?
Captains is a term that it has always been used, as far as I know,
Right.
in fine dining,
Mm.
because you have sort of a tiered system of front of the house staff. So the captain is a person that's actually handling that's actually communicating with the table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that it's sort of coming from like a ship, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're navigating your meal.
Sure.
And then they'll have normally at least two other people below them that are in their team. An assistant
Yeah.
and a back waiter, and then you have runners and bussers. So you've got this whole diagram of staff that's taking care of a table, but you're really only interfacing with one of them.
Can you take us through the snack experience there? I mean, I was reading that, before you sit down, or especially when you sat down, sort of 2 or 3 things were put on your table.
Yep.
We were with, actually, ironically, Martin, the guy from the Dover, and actually Charlie Meller from this amazing Italian restaurant in Soho, saying that when you do these little touches, it makes way more impact than anything else you can do throughout a meal. It's what you remember, those small little details. Can you take us through that sort of experience and the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a lot of the previous questions. I think it's all texture, right? It's all of these things add great texture to your experience. Getting food immediately while you still have menus in your hands is just something that style of restaurant does. I grew up with it. It was just part. We call them moves. It's just one of the moves of these restaurants. It's a thing that they do. So when we were building out the first Carbone, we would make sure we were checking all of the boxes of what this 1950s Italian restaurant would do, so that we were as authentic as possible. And that's one of those little things that, like, the second you sit down, you're immediately hit with some things on your table, and it's a move. And it's actually called move in the system. So like when a waiter goes in, when 4 people sit down, the second they sit down, the ticket comes in and says fire 4 move.
Really?
4 move means snacks.
And for those listening, what do they get currently?
They get chunks of Parmesan cheese. They get a cured salami plate. They get a pickled bowl of cauliflower. And then the last thing they'll get will be the warm bread basket, which has 3 kinds of bread in it. We make a homemade tomato, we call it grandma bread. It's like a tomato focaccia. The bread is made from potato, actually. So it's this potato-based kind of soft and chewy dough, a beautiful greasy garlic bread, and a toasted sesame-seeded, like dark sesame-seeded bread, crusty bread.
Wow. Can you talk us through the menu then, especially the opening menu when you guys opened originally in New York? How did you, because you've got these iconic dishes now, the rigatoni, all these wonderful things, the veal. How did you decide on, because you're a classically trained chef, you worked in some amazing Michelin-star restaurants. How did you come with a balance of like great food, but comfort food, but also drama?
It wasn't that hard, because this kind of category of restaurant, particularly in New York, the Italian-American kind of fancy restaurant, all of the menus are virtually the same, like in all of New York, and there's so many of them. Yeah, there's one or there's a few odd dishes in each one, but like basically they all serve the same food.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that hard to write a menu of those dishes. We wanted the menu to look like all of the others, really. We wanted them to just be part of the genre. I wanted to be seen as part of the genre. I knew that we could make them better.
Yeah.
I knew with our training and our team that we could take these dishes and make them better, but I wanted to make the dishes. So I remember the New York Times interviewing me before the restaurant had opened, and the woman interviewing me asked me what was on the menu, and I said you could place the order right now. You know what's on the menu. Yeah. Like, she was a born and raised New Yorker who was a food critic. I said, you know what's on the menu. You can place the order right now. Tell me what you want to eat.
Yeah, that's crazy. You did win a Michelin star though.
We did early on.
It was elevated beyond compared to the other places in some regard.
Yes, I think.
Was that a blessing or a curse?
The Michelin star?
Yeah.
Couldn't care about it.
No.
Don't care about it at all.
Can we talk Michelin?
Sure.
Go on. I mean, like, because you've now got a star for your restaurant in
We have
New
a
York.
star for Teresi, and those guys, that team does an incredible job there. I think it's easily one of the best restaurants in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But Michelin, is a there's a lot to unpack there. I think.
Come on, unleash yourself. I mean, how much does it matter?
That depends on who you ask and what your goals are. I think if you start cooking for stars and you forget that there's customers on the other side of the equation, you're in trouble. I also find it hard to believe that Michelin is what they say they are. It's pretty inconceivable to me in this day and age that they're still anonymous and they still go to all of these restaurants every year to check on them. Do you know the payroll that would be necessary for Michelin to do that?
Insane.
And in this day and age, we don't know who these people are with modern technology and everyone having a camera on their phone. And how is any of that and all of it's how is it not just an algorithm? Because I'm sure there are some critics.
Yeah.
But if you look at the overall revenue of Michelin and selling books to the payroll they would need to visit all of these restaurants around the world every year to make sure that they're keeping up their standards, isn't it just an algorithm like everything else? Like they're just populating a star based off of where they want to sell the magazine and what other critics have said about these restaurants.
So is that why it's not sort of widely spread across America?
When I'm sure what it used to be was what people believe it to be today.
Yeah.
Where there were these genuine critics going to these restaurants when it was a manageable amount of restaurants
Sure.
just in Europe, and those stars meant make or break. I think those days are really over of the star meaning make or break, especially now in the current climate of the restaurant industry where the critic in general is really just a customer. Everyone has a platform. Everyone's got a following.
Yeah.
Everyone can write a review, put up a story, put up a video. They're the critic. The critic is the customer more than ever. I used to read every review of every New York Times every week because it was Bible for us. But now those days are behind us, and it's a double-edged sword because they were trained professionals to go through the critic process, and now it's everyone, it's anyone and everyone, right? No matter what their qualification is. So it's a gift and a curse.
So you chucked out a critic once. Can you tell us why?
I was young and brash, and I didn't like the way he went about reviewing Carbone. I believed that he had a preconceived notion of what he wanted to write about the restaurant, and then regardless of his experiences wrote that. So then he came back to another location, and I didn't want to serve him. I didn't need him to write about that one also. So a lot of it was chalked up to being young and full of piss and vinegar. And some of it was just frustration through the early review process of Carbone.
So what is it then? I mean, obviously you got probably the most popular celebrity restaurant in the world, or you did in New York at least. Is that more impactful than any review, any critic, any star you could ever get?
Well, no, I think what's most impactful is doing everything you can to block out all of that noise and just focusing on putting out a great product, a genuinely great product. If it's genuinely great, you'll do well, you'll succeed. And if you can just kind of block out everything else not mattering and it being completely out of your control, and just focus on what you can control, making the very best restaurant you possibly can,
you're good to go.
The other things take care of themselves.
We speak to, obviously, so many incredible chefs on this show, and they say, especially the ones who've been successful in previous places, customers come in with a preconceived idea, just as you were saying there about critics, and they want to have a bad time. They can tell these guys come in deliberately wanting to go like, that was shit. Now, when you launch in London, you had so much success everywhere, and it's still incredibly successful. But a couple of critics, it felt, wanted to stick the knife in. Like, did you expect that to happen? Because a lot of people we've spoken to say you can just see them coming in wanting to, like, resist enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of the reviews, you can feel in the writing that there is glee and joy in the I told you so of it all, but it's completely out of my control. I think it's a big restaurant, Carbone, here in Mayfair. You know, it's 250 plus seats. If I can make 248 of them very, very happy, well, then we have a business. We have repeat customers, because as much artistry as in this industry, it lives exactly at the corner of art and commerce. And as soon as you forget about the business part of it all, you don't have a restaurant to speak from. You don't have a platform. It can't stay open. So being a good business, a successful business, taking care of your customers, your regulars, putting out a great product, making sure the team takes care of people, all the fundamentals, that's what matters. And you're gonna, we're a big. I get that I'm gonna take my lumps. I'm a big brand coming in from out of town, and there's gonna be some lumps along the way, but I'll take them.
The experience there is obviously one where you just have an amazing time, great food, great fun. What are your views on fine dining now at that high level? You've worked in those restaurants, in those kitchens. A lot of people we've had on the show recently go like, it's dying, it's almost dead. People don't want to sit there for 5-6 hours having 30 courses. Just your thoughts on that, having worked there?
Well, I think certainly the tasting menu, that thing has fallen completely out of vogue. These trends are cyclical. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we see that come back in some way. I do think that there's been great fatigue in that one. I don't think fine dining's going anywhere. I think it's going to keep changing, right? I think that's just the art form changing a little bit and what's coming in and out of vogue. Even for myself, I don't want to sit through those 3 and 4 hour tasting menus, but I still want to eat fine dining. I think Dorian is fine dining, right? I mean, and it's the opposite of that tasting menu. So I think fine dining is, it's subjective, but certainly the tasting menu has fallen completely out of vogue, and what fine dining looks like, I think, for the better, is open to interpretation now, and I think that's great.
You're a very clever businessman. You really are. We were speaking to another one in Frank, who owns Maison François, Café François. They do a lot of trolley work, a lot of tableside drama. People love to have it. But also, he said, we've tripled our dessert sales by having dessert trolley, because when you bring it in front of the customers, they can't resist. Whereas if you put a menu down, they go like, I'm okay. So how much of that, because we're really interested in the business of it and the psychology, how interesting is that? Because obviously you do your tableside Caesar, you do a lot of tableside preparation, but does that not only create drama, but actually upsell as well?
I'm sure he's right. We've at Carbone, we've only known one way to do the desserts, which is on these giant trays where they come over and you see the whole cakes, and so not that dissimilar to what he does. And I'm sure that has a greater effect on the customer than just a plain written or printed menu. A lot of the moves that we do in the dining room, again, going back to moves, a lot of them are taken from other restaurants that we remember growing up, or styles of something that I saw somewhere. We order an espresso at Carbone, and the tray comes out with a bottle of Sambuca. The 2 espressos go down, and the last thing the waiter says is, "Would you like a shot of Sambuca with that?" Which is part of my culture, and 90-some-odd% will say no, thank you, but they saw it. And I think it's just texture.
And is that a sell-up, or is that included?
I think we probably include
Depends
it.
on the way,
I think we probably include it. Sambuca doesn't cost much.
No, true. It's a lovely touch, though. It makes you remember.
I say be generous with I always preach to the team: be generous with cheap things. Don't obviously be careful with your costs of things that are expensive, of raw materials. But there's plenty of things that we touch all day long in the restaurants that don't cost a lot. Be generous.
Well, it's like going to an old school Italian here, and you just can't wait for that limoncello shot at the end. Do you remember that free round? The guy brings out a bottle. That's like almost the highlight. When you guys opened up in New York, obviously it was impossible to get a table. Still is here, London. What was the weirdest offer you got from someone to try and get a table? There must have been some weird ones.
None that have come through me. I mean, we get lots of last minute requests that we, depending on where it's coming from, we do our best to accommodate. But I can't really recall any odd offers.
Cash in hand? There must have been a couple.
I'm sure, but not to me.
No.
I'm sure our maitre d's along the years have done well for themselves.
You were slogging it off in the kitchen. What about when Bieber and sort of who else? Clooney couldn't get in. I mean,
that was just a product of and Clooney I don't know at all, but Justin and Haley I know well. That just was a product of very, very last minute, not being able to get them in right that second,
Mhm.
and us kind of scrambling to make something happen, and them not being able to make the time work, and somehow it turns into like us turning them away when they're actually very, very close friends of ours. Um, so it's just kind of very last minute. Carbone, New York, only 80 seats,
Yeah.
and if it's 8 o'clock, I would have to actually remove someone from the restaurant to get George Clooney in, and I'm not going to do that.
What's the greatest, so just quickly getting back to hospitality, the greatest sort of small segment or piece you've experienced of hospitality in a restaurant where you've gone like, fuck me, that stuck with me forever?
Probably early on, when I was really, really impressionable and going to experience some of these things for the first time. Um, you grow up. I grew up in a small neighborhood in Queens, so like even New York City was pretty foreign. Not far from me, but pretty far.
Yeah.
I had no reason to go there. So when I was young and I was saving up, I was a cook and I was saving up my money. I would basically use. I was so young. I was still a teenager that I was still living at home. I was like 19 years old, working already at a 3-star in New York, making no money, but I was able to save it all, and I would use it all to take myself out to dinner, and I would go start figuring out who's making, who's doing something, who are the important restaurants, what are the important chefs, and those early meals were incredibly eye-opening. The whole thing is new to you. Everything's you're drinking out of a fire hose of information. You see Jean-Georges walk out of the kitchen in his perfectly slicked back hair and his Prada loafers, and you're like, what the fuck is going on around here?
I need to be there.
This is nothing. This is nothing I've ever seen.
Lots of chefs we speak to here. I mean, London's obviously in a bit of a state of, well, I don't know. Some are doing well, some are really, struggling. Minimum wage is going up, the government's kind of fucked, all these kind of things. We get a lot of people coming on going like, it's really tough. They all look at bakeries at the moment, and I know you've got a slightly more casual brunch bakery offering like Sadelle's in New York and other places as well. Is that a more, I don't know, is that like the best product currently, which is, just unimpactful?
From a business?
Yeah, because people say like...
I don't think so.
Really?
No.
Because here people say they walk into a bakery, they would spend 30 quid without thinking, but you walk into a restaurant, they see a steak and they go...
Oh, from a customer's perspective, but I bet you if you interview owners, I would not want to be in that's a very difficult business.
Really?
Because your cost of ingredient is very high.
Yeah.
The cost of talent is high to make these beautiful products.
Mm-hmm.
They need the very best butter. They need the very best dairy.
Yeah.
Great talent, and so it gets expensive. Your profit margin isn't great, and the biggest thing about that is you're not selling any booze.
No.
You got to sell alcohol.
Yeah.
You have to sell alcohol. Like otherwise, this whole equation doesn't work. Food's expensive. The threshold for what a customer is willing to pay for something, they know what that thing should basically cost. Whatever it is, whether it's a croissant or a steak, they know what basically should. So the threshold is only so high. So you have to be able to sell everything around that as well. Cocktails, bottles of wine, digestives, desserts. So to have a bakery model where there's no alcohol sales, like even at Sadelle's, I'm in brunch, so I'm selling Bloody Marys, I'm selling mimosas. I've got a chance.
Yeah.
The bakery model's way harder, and why you're seeing it get expensive, because they're trying to just make a profit out of this. There's something funky about our industry where it's a bit taboo to talk about the business part of it. Because we're supposed to be artists, and as soon as you're successful and you're making money, you must be taking advantage of the customer, when those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive.
That's true. So you need booze. Booze is the key.
You got to have booze. You got to sell alcohol. I mean, to actually have a good business.
Yeah. With so many...
Or you need mass scale.
Yeah, of course.
Like mass scale.
Yeah.
Where your slim profit margin is compounded over so many locations that you're doing well. Those are your options.
And you've got restaurants all over the world. I mean, is London one you look at, like other chefs who've come on and say it's really tough compared to others? Is New York suffering as well? Paint us a picture of where just the restaurant or hospitality industry is currently with the state of the world post all these crises.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still less than a year old in London, so I'm still new to the dining scene, the numbers. Yes, I've heard from everybody that it's certainly a down year or a couple of years right now. London is one of those cities that, when the opportunity came out for us to do this, you have to bet on it because you have to play the long game on a city like London or New York. They're not going anywhere. So even if there's a bit of a dip in the market right now for geopolitical reasons, it's gonna come back. It's London, So play the long game. These leases are long. They're 10, 15, 20-year leases. So put out a great product, build your community. It's going to take care of itself. It's going to do well. Certainly a city like New York. I mean, New York, was really doing very, very well the last couple of years coming out of COVID. The last 2 years or so, pre-war, pre-market going a bit crazy. New York was doing fantastic. It's still doing really well. I think if some of the issues in the world can kind of subside, I think New York is a great super strong market right now.
You said I think New York has the best Italian food in the world, even better than Italy.
Well, what I said. Can
you talk me through that?
I got some shit for that, but what I said was, I think consistently, New York has a more consistent high bar of product, of quality, than Italy does. Certainly at the fine dining level, I don't think necessarily the Italians are great at taking their food and elevating it to a level that they're trying to be this sort of 2 and 3 Michelin star world's best rankings. I think a lot of the love of the cuisine is pulled out of it when that happens. So certainly at the fine dining level, I think I avoid that category when I'm dining in Italy. I'm looking for the trattoria, the osteria. That's what I want to go to. Those are the restaurants I want to eat at. And I think if you just throw a dart at an Italian restaurant in New York, you're going to have a better meal than if you throw a dart at an Italian restaurant in Italy.
With so many places, I mean, we had Claude Bossy on, who I actually mentioned to you off air, who's got a couple of Michelin-star restaurants, but also has got this new French, because obviously the French movement of, little bistros opening here has been huge over the last couple of years. And he was saying he wants to open up as many as possible. Why are chefs the only people, or restaurateurs, who are punished for trying to make money? Every industry, you're praised, whereas weirdly as a chef, people go like, how dare you try and make money? How dare you try?
Yeah, it's a weird cultural taboo that I would love to spend the next part of my career doing my best to sort of try to tear down those walls and educate and communicate. I think, everyone knows the classic statistic of 9 out of 10 restaurants fail within whatever the first year. I think we do a very poor job of shining a light on the one that didn't, and using it as an example as to, okay, here's maybe there's some evidence here. There might be a path here. There might be something to learn from here. So I think it is absolutely a taboo because I believe people see it as this product that if we are the owners are to make a profit and grow and build multiple units, then for some reason we must also be cheating the customer, and that's just not true.
In the same breath, people go like, obviously you've got Richard Kerring, who owns the Ivy Group over here. He's now opening it all over the country, all over the world. And then suddenly the same chefs will start pointing fingers, being like, how dare he, try and open 40 places around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of crazy. But obviously you've got loads of places, Riyadh, Doha, Vegas, London. How do you keep that sort of quality, that control, and that sort of special creative element in every single place as you grow? What's the key to that?
I think we have great buy-in from a lot of the people in the company that have been with us for a very long time. I use a team of people that have all been with me for 10 plus years as the sort of training team. I'm the captain of the training team, and we will go, certainly for an opening, we're there for an extensive period of time, training everyone. we have great buy-in from them, and they are the cultural ambassadors of what we do.
Mm.
And so you'll get, you know, a team of trainers that range in all the sort of areas of discipline of the restaurants. You know, I'll travel with someone who's been, you know, my head of busboys for 10 years and captain and sous chefs and, you know, pasta makers. And then once it's up and running, we have a pretty extensive system of keeping track of communicating. You know, whether it's WhatsApp chats for different clusters of chefs that all run similar restaurants,
Yeah.
so that we can communicate, we can share photos, we share recipes and videos, and we're constantly, you know, changing menus and communicating. So I get to see all of that, and I'll jump in and comment and talk to the chefs that way, and then I spend 6 months out of the year traveling.
Yeah. What's the biggest sort of mistake restaurants are making today?
I think that if you're cooking and building something, I think just losing sight of the customer is a big one, which was a something that we touched on earlier. I think if you're not necessarily cooking for the customer, which seems like a radical statement, but does happen, and you're cooking for an ulterior motive, or you're making sort of selfish cuisine, then I think your customer feels that, and those are the sorts of restaurants that you go to once, and even if you genuinely liked your meal, you may never go back. And we try to trade in the sort of restaurant where you'd love to be a regular there 3 times a week.
And are those the chefs in the restaurants which are trying to suck on the dick of Michelin?
Well, I don't know what their motives are, right? I mean, I think you could covet Michelin, you could covet a world ranking, you could covet New York Times stars. But I think that is a byproduct that you have no control over, and when that's your goal, then I think you're very easily taken off course of what you are in control of, and that's your restaurant, your people, your product.
Well, I think one of the greatest mistakes is that not enough restaurants have Blink, which is the greatest POS system in the world, and they've now got reservations, Mario. I want to see this in your restaurant in London. They integrate seamlessly with the Blink POS to give you true end-to-end control of the front of house. Every booking walk-in becomes a valuable guest insight, with deposits and pre-authorizations handled effortlessly, and there's real-time table tracking from arrival to bill. This is not just another reservation system. The Blink POS and the reservations is generally unique. It's priced to outperform the market. Mario, are you ready to streamline your operations and elevate your guest experience? You always are.
That was seamlessly integrated into this conversation.
I'm going to give you 2 months free with the code GoToBlink, and everyone listening can get that as well. I want to take you back quickly to your childhood. You grew up in Queens. What are your childhood memories of food? Because obviously you were an early obsessive.
Childhood memories of food.
What were you eating around the tables?
Well, we ate very well at home. My mom was predominantly the cook at home. I wouldn't say she was necessarily passionate about it. She did it a bit as her job, but she was great at it. Her mother and father, who were born in Italy, were definitely the first big boost of inspiration for me. And I would go there. They didn't live far from us, and we would go there often, and certainly on holidays, it was always at their house. And my grandfather would cook a feast, and that was early on transcendently good food that I just so craved, and I was so excited to go there for these meals. And then I think when you get old enough to start going to restaurants, you know, even if they're not great restaurants, just kind of, you know, whatever, or dining out with your family, I was captivated by the sort of magic trick of restaurants. You know, you sit down as a kid, and this guy hands you a menu of all these things, and I can pick anything I want on this menu, and behind those doors, it's just going to come out. That's wild. Yeah. And so I was fascinated by what's going on behind those doors. How does that happen? It felt like magic to me, like a rabbit out of a hat. So I think when those two things combine, because you need to be passionate about food and the industry.
Yeah.
If you're just passionate about food, that's great, but that doesn't necessarily indicate that you might want to do this professionally. It's the sort of craziness of the actual job that you also have to have a love for and catch a bug for. So when I started working young at local restaurants, I found that also, this love of this pirate ship.
Was it as crazy and magical as you hoped it would be?
I didn't know what to expect, really.
Probably crazier than you expected.
Yeah, it was chaotic, and it got progressively more chaotic as I moved along in my life. Definitely some oh shit moments. You know, you're gonna sink around here if you don't start pedaling. But yeah, my first love of food was certainly in the home, mine and my family's, and then early on dining out, loving or being so inquisitive about the industry, letting that take over.
Well, you went to study at the CIA. We were speaking to Frank Pinello a couple of weeks ago from Best Pizza in New York, who studied there as well, saying it's fucking crazy, like the levels of everything, the quality of the fish, everything. What was your experience like there? Because it sounds like Hogwarts for food. I mean, it sounds unreal.
Culinary school? With CIA?
Yeah.
Well, for me, what struck me right away was like a shocking level of professionalism. I had never experienced anything like that. I was a mediocre at best student coming out of high school, pursuing something I genuinely had interest in, but I didn't totally understand that I was walking into military school's extreme, but it's not terribly far from that. You're all in these kind of perfectly pressed uniforms, identical, with your name on your chest, in this very professional environment, and all of a sudden, I'm sort of hit in the face with the reality of this is the path that I chose, and it's really a shit or get off the pot kind of situation here. Like, okay, you chose this, you made this decision, here you are, you're in this place now. What are you gonna do with this?
Jesus.
Yeah. Good
fun though.
I would not have changed it for the world. I'm very thankful that I went there. I met my business partner there, and hopefully, in the coming years, I'll be sort of reconnected with the school and can kind of help the next generation.
What was it like walking to Italy? Because apparently that was a restaurant which changed the world at that point.
That restaurant changed the world and changed New York dining for sure. Changed my life for sure.
Go on, take us through what it was like walking in there. Like, how are they doing things different?
I mean, I walked in there the night before I started working there. I got accepted to be an intern. Early 1999, and it had just won 3 stars, but Mario was doing it his own way, and what I knew of the restaurant was it was red hot. Everyone was talking about it, and I knew that he had just won 3 stars. So I had this idea in my mind of what it was. It was this fancy restaurant that was serving the food that Mario trained at in Emilia-Romagna, and homemade pastas and this one. So I had these preconceived notions of what it would be, and I made a reservation there, or they made a reservation for. They allowed me to come in, and I ate there the night before I started, and I walked in, and I was knocked over with the energy that we talk about. That you get hit with the euphorium in the dining room of a packed house that just sounds excited to be there. And playing was the Beastie Boys' License to Ill, cover to cover. It wasn't a playlist. He was playing the album, start to finish. And I was like, is this the Beastie Boys playing right now? And is this a 3-star restaurant? And it was loud, and it was rocking, and it was awesome, and the food was extraordinary. And I left there, my head was spinning. Mario was sitting outside on the stairs on the way out. He was talking to people and taking pictures and doing what he does. And I met him there the first time, and I told him I was starting tomorrow. And that day certainly that path changed my life, and the fact that I got into that restaurant absolutely changed my life.
Well, at 20, you eventually go to North Tuscany. I mean, obviously you're Italian, but you don't speak much Italian at that point.
No.
You head out there. I mean, that must have been a big fucking change up from New York. Suddenly you're in rural Italy.
Yeah.
You're at this old sort of fashion restaurant, but incredible food. Talk us through your memories of...
So Mario helped me with that also. I went to him after a couple of years of working with him, and I was still in my early 20s. And I said I wanted to see where this all came from. And I know that he had a formal experience where he spent 3 or 4 years in Emilia-Romagna, and I knew that about him, and I thought that must be something that was really important to him. He speaks so highly of it. I'm this Italian American, but I've never been to Italy. I maybe had never been on a plane before.
Cheers.
And I think that might have been the first time ever on a plane, possibly. And I wanted desperately to see where it all came from. So I asked him if he knew of anyone that he could set me up with. He put me in contact with a journalist who lives in Rome. She still does. Her name is Faith Willinger. And she recommended a few places that she knew, and I blindly chose one of them. They said yes, and I showed up with a backpack in the middle of northwestern Tuscany where there's very little English spoken. I lived above the restaurant that I worked at with the brother of the chef who was unmarried and kind of walked around the house in his little tidy whities and big belly and ripped cigs all day. And yeah, when the phone rang in the apartment, you had to answer it as if it was the restaurant because there was only one phone number for the whole building.
Right.
So if you were upstairs, you had to be ready to take a reservation at any time. So it was like La Dogana, pronto La Dogana. So like you had to always be ready to take a reservation.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that was my life in Italy, and I was only supposed to be there for I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, and I wound up spending well over a year there.
What was the food like? What were you cooking?
The food was incredible. It was exactly the type of restaurant you hope to find when you're traveling. It was that trattoria level, maybe could have been a Michelin star restaurant if they really tried to touch it a little bit more, but like,
if they got
thank God they didn't.
Yeah.
Because it's perfect. It was a perfect expression of a trattoria. And I didn't know that at the time, but I know it now. And they changed the menu every single day. So there was like a little very simple, like made on like the first computer ever menu printed daily. And the waiter would go to your table and he would just ask you if you wanted meat or fish. You chose one of those two things and your meal came out. And it was kind of preset. And then cut to years later when our first restaurant opened, Teresi, and we had this tiny restaurant and I really couldn't afford to bring in all these ingredients to make a whole menu. I went back to what they did at La Dogana, which is what the restaurant was called, and we did one menu a night and all you did was choose meat or fish. So I sort of brought that idea back because it fit perfectly to what I was doing and how I was feeling at the time. And when we first opened Teresi, it was meat or fish.
Wow. And
that's all you ordered.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
When you came back, you did manage to get a job at one of the most notorious and difficult kitchens in the world, in Café Balud. We had Eric Huang on the podcast who said it was literally a war zone. Firstly, how did you get a job there?
So it's a bit of a story. It's a really long story. So I'll cut it down a little bit. But basically, I begged Danielle through his assistant to get a stage at Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, she got so sick of me calling her that she told me to show up on like Saturday at whatever time. So I show up on Saturday at whatever time. I get there and no one knows who I am or what I'm doing there. I quickly figure out that like no one's anticipating me being there. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm not gonna leave.
No.
So I just grab a uniform and I find someone to work with, and I'm like, hey, dude, can I help you do something? What do you need? And I wound up dicing leeks for Danielle's famous bass and paupiette dish, and I fucked it up a couple times, I'm sure. And eventually, I did the leeks. Service started. I had nothing to do there, so I was just kind of running around helping grab whatever anyone needed. Service ended, and no one said anything to me. So I threw my uniform in the bin, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. So Sunday it was closed. On Monday, I showed up again. I found the guy, and I'm like, hey, do you need your leaks cut? And he's like, yeah. I was like, "Alright, cool." So like Monday came, Tuesday came. I don't know how many days went by because this is a long time ago, but at some point during service one night, Alex Lee, who was the executive chef, kind of looks at me from down the line. And he kind of motions for me to come over to him. And I'm like, yes, chef. And he's like, hey, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, I'm Mario Carbone. I got sent here for a stage on Saturday. I was like, I've been here for 4 days. No one said anything to me. I've been cutting this guy's leaks. I was like, he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I need a job. He's like, there's no jobs here. I was like, we're totally full. I'm like, fuck, I've been here for 4 days. He's like, tomorrow, he's like, go to Cafe Balloon, see Andrew Carmelini. They may have a position over there. So the next day I went to go see Andrew Carmelini. I had actually met Andrew a couple of years prior. He came to visit me in Italy where I was working because he was cooking a wedding there. And I helped him get fish and run around and get what he needed for his wedding. So he remembered me and he hired me to work there. The position that I was hired for was poissonnier, fish cook. Working to my right was Rich Teresi on hot appetizer, who I met first day of culinary school. My friend Rich, my now brother and business partner, happened. Not only was he standing next to me the day of my first day of culinary school where we met, he was standing next to me the day I got hired at Cafe Balloon, and we sort of rekindled our friendship working there, and that wound up becoming, the beginning of what would become our company.
Was Dave Chang there as well? Dave
Chang came shortly thereafter. Dave worked right behind me and Rich, and he was on hot apps. I was fish. Rich was hot apps. Dave was garde manger 2, and I was fish. And we worked in a tiny little corner together, all three of us, until Dave said, "I've had it. I'm sick of this. I'm burnt out. I'm going to go open a noodle bar in the East Village." And Rich and I laughed our asses off until Dave made millions of dollars selling noodles, and we were like, I think we should leave too.
Was that the toughest kitchen you ever worked in then? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was the toughest kitchen I ever worked in. What it was like for me was when I would get 3 stops away from the restaurant on the subway, a pit in my stomach would form of just fear of what I was walking into that day. We worked 6 days a week. If you were the morning shift, you got there and it was very much dark outside. And if it was the wintertime when you left and it was the morning shift, it was dark again. So we would take sun breaks. After lunch, we would go outside on the corner, and if you smoke cigarettes, you'd have a cigarette, but you would just stare at the sun for 10 minutes and then go back in there because you were back in the basement and you wouldn't see the sun again. It was very, very, very difficult. They were making at the time beautiful food. Andrew in that kitchen and we were all really young. I mean, this is 2002, 2003. I'm 22, 23. Same with Rich. Dave's same age. I mean, we're all in our early 20s. But yeah, it was very competitive cooking. It was really tough. And I think it started with Andrew pushing that team to prove that he was just as good at Cafe as the team was at Danielle, and we were. But I think that's where it started from, and it trickled down to all of us.
But it was physical as well, Eric said.
It was tough. Yeah. It was tough. I mean, 6 days a week of that many hours, working that hard with just the air of stress in the room. Yeah. What was expected of you was very, very tough. But you signed up for that. I mean, in hindsight, I mean that's a few good men. Yeah, I mean, that's like you signed up for the Green Beret. No shit, it's hard. This is hard. Yeah. This is the top of the top.
What about your kitchens now? I mean, obviously the Devonshire's got this incredible system. I don't know if you've been into the kitchens.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Do you have something like that to like? How much is cooking nowadays, and how much is sort of almost just a conveyor belt of prep and sort of following digital instructions, as it were?
Well, you need to find a bit of a balance, right? Because a lot of those techniques go a long way towards consistency, especially across multiple restaurants, multiple countries. So techniques that allow us to produce a consistent product is very, very important, even if it is to the detriment of maybe the beauty of the individual cook, but I don't think the customer wants us to sacrifice the quality of the meal for that. So you do want to take a certain amount of human what am I looking for here? It's like there's a certain amount of percentage of human error in making something that is natural. That's going to happen. We're not robots.
Yeah.
So if a technique can help stabilize that, then great. But there's still a huge amount of cooking and technique that's involved. You know, if you look at just Carbone, just the pasta station alone is a feel that takes time. You know, you can't throw even a talented cook that jumps on that station for the first night, the first week, the first month. It takes time to learn that the feel for each one of these dishes. So training is critical, and not losing, not turning over your team. You know, having a culture of a company where people want to stay and they want to push to go to the next, whatever the next level is. I work this station, I want to go to that station. I work this level of management, I want to go to that level of management. So to have that culture where you're not constantly rehiring people is critical to the quality of the food and the experience. You walk in and you recognize that waiter, and this dish tastes like the dish I had last time here. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, consistency is key. Also, like, what about hype? I mean, obviously, everyone wants to go and eat at your restaurants. They want to go try them out. They want to have an amazing time. But is there ways you can manufacture? I mean, people have pointed fingers going like there are some restaurants which kind of block book things and make it look like they're more booked out to try and create more hype. Is that like a thing that happens in the industry, or is that just
manipulating that is difficult. I don't think that you can really manipulate hype if you don't have a product that people want. So I think you have to have something great.
Sure.
Can you manipulate hype by maybe making something really small? Sure, but you're going to do it at the detriment of the business. So yeah, you can open a 6-table restaurant and make it impossible to get in, but like you're only going to generate so much revenue.
Yeah.
You got to have something that's good enough for people to want. And then for us at Carbone, like the booking, yes, it's difficult, but part of why it's difficult is we make sure that we are always taking care of our customers that take care of us. So we've been open we've been open 13, 14 years now. We've got a big database of customers that come all the time. They take care of us. That's the business of it. So they basically get the first dibs of reservations before it gets opened up to the public. I need to take care of those people and make sure that they have their seats before anything gets opened up to anyone else. So if that's a way of maybe that's a way of manipulating, but that's really just a system that we've created where I've made it known that it's paramount that the people that have taken care of us, we take care of. And that's how we're able to consistently fill the restaurants with guests that we know, that are of quality, that take care of our customers, that take care of our staff, that pay well, that dine well. Because my means of bringing in revenue tonight is I've got 85 seats. If I just using whatever reservation system you want, I just open up the book to any 85 customers, I've left the money I'm going to make tonight to chance.
Yeah.
If I can place 85 people in the restaurant, I've taken chance out of it. I know within a certain range how much money we're going to make tonight.
Sure.
Before that, I had no idea.
No.
So like, again, that's to the business of it.
Yeah.
Like we have to. This is a business.
And which restaurant is making the most out of all your sort of 40-50?
Carbone in Miami is probably one of the 5 highest grossing restaurants in America. If we allowed those stats to get out. Carbone in Miami, we have the Grill in New York in Midtown. Both those places do outrageous numbers, and our places in Vegas do insane numbers.
2009, your first place in New York, Trisi Italian Specialities. Was it a bit of a confused offering at first? Sandwich shop in the day, am I right? And then sort of more of a menu in the evening?
It took a minute. It
Yeah.
took a minute for people to get it. The sandwich shop came about because we wanted to just do something that was, we knew we could make it great. We knew it was pretty humble. We knew that we could get enough interest in $10 sandwiches to do enough revenue to keep the doors open, to give us a chance to do a dinner menu.
Mm.
So we started with something that gave us a chance to do the dinner. We were passionate about the deli part of it, but we knew that it was this juxtaposition of two concepts in one. But we weren't courageous enough really to just dive into this dinner menu.
Mm.
We needed to get our feet under us because we were very scared of it not making it and losing our opportunity, losing money from our families that have been that they saved up. So it was a very unnerving first year or two for us. Very little sleep.
Was there a catalyst, sort of an overnight moment where it all blew up?
We got a couple of great pieces of press. Back to the Cafe Balut part of it, but like when Dave Chang, started Momofuku and it was all the rage, he had met all these journalists, and then he was critical in our early success of him calling the journalists and like, hey, you got to go see my guys. They just opened this thing. And they're like, great, we'll go. So it came back for us when Dave did that for us. And then we got one particular great review for our dinner when dinner was very slow in the beginning. And these two journalists from New York Magazine came, and they had 3 meals there, and they wrote a beautiful review of the dinner. And then the next night, we had a line outside waiting to come in for dinner. So that was the big moment for us doing that style.
Ugh. And what's next? I mean, you've always got your fingers in a couple of pies thinking where to go next. Give us an exclusive on the go-to food. Come on, Mario.
Well, I would be remiss to not talk about the next London restaurant we're opening.
Come on.
So this fall, we're opening a restaurant on Piccadilly in the old In-N-Out space, the old In-N-Out Club. And it's going to be a auberge hotel. It's owned by the Rubin brothers. Jamie Rubin's a very close friend of ours. And it's this grand space full of history and ornate detail. And we're doing a grill there, a proper grill, which is, I don't want to say it's an English grill, but it's definitely continental. And it's going to be formal and beautiful, but it'll still be fun. And I'm very excited to make that sort of food. It's food that we do, and we do have experience in, but I'm very excited to do it here with these ingredients.
So what's going to be on the menu? So the steaks and things like that?
There'll definitely be beef, but also game birds. It's a gourmand restaurant for sure. It's trolley service. Beef roasts.
Are you gonna go to Simpsons when you're here? Have a look at what
I've been. Yeah, I went to it before it got redone.
Right. Okay.
And I need to go and have a meal. My team just ate there recently.
Right.
But I need to go. I need to eat through a lot of the grills. I want to go to the sort of the Connaught Grill, Dorchester, Savoy.
You got to do a grill day.
I need to do.
It's gonna be awful for the gout, but it's gonna be good
terrible.
fun.
I went to Guinea Grill about a month ago.
Yeah.
Cornucopia is kind of a nouveau grill, so I want to see that. But yeah, I'm very excited about that this fall. It's going to be great. It's called Majors.
Oh, what a beautiful name.
Yeah.
You've had an incredible career. We're coming towards the end, but what's that one moment when you close your eyes and go like, fuck me, how have I got here? How is this happening? It's a pinch me moment. You're going like, Jesus. I don't know. Maybe you're in the bathroom doing fucking beaky with Jay-Z. I don't know. It
happens pretty frequently where I'll just... Usually I'll have those moments I'll have it often with Rich, whether we're together or we're on the phone, we talk constantly. And we'll have those moments where you're just like, fuck, man. Can you believe this?
Like, on a night out with Jay-Z.
I mean, I mean,
That was a good night.
those are good nights.
Yeah.
He's a good man. I'm very excited about his shows this summer.
Yeah.
Very, very excited. I can't wait for those. New York is, with the Knicks winning the championship and Jay and having it be a summer of Jay. It feels like the early 2000s again, which is a great thing.
And you got the World Cup final there.
World Cup final. See who makes
It's going
that.
to be big. Can you paint us, talking about New York then, the perfect sort of foodie weekend? If we're going there for 2-3 days, where do we have to eat and drink? Obviously, we got to go to your places, but
Yeah, you got to go to my places. I would say, if you're doing it sort of chronologically, in the morning, you definitely have to have a bagel somewhere, whether it's Sadel's or another bagel shop. You should definitely have bagel. I would definitely go for sort of the appetizing smoked salmon of the world and sort of that style. I think having that experience in the morning is critical. I would also send someone definitely to go to Katz's and have probably just a half of it, but have a pastrami sandwich at Katz's on rye with mustard. You have to have pizza. The pizza in New York is probably better than it must be better than it's ever been. It must be at its absolute peak right now.
where's the best place for a slice?
There's so much good
Come
pizza
on, Mary,
right
I'm
now.
pushing you. Give me a couple.
A couple, I would tell you to go to Industry Pizza. I would tell you to go to Lucali in Brooklyn for sure. I just ate at one deep in Brooklyn called Lucky Charlie's. This guy Nino, who's absolutely out of his mind, cooking out of this 100-plus-year-old coal-burning oven in the basement of this apartment building in Brooklyn.
Sounds dangerous.
It felt dangerous. That was incredible. Lucky Charlie's. So you got to have pizza, and then I would I'd say Teresi or Carbone for that Italian New York experience. Two very different expressions of it. One very literal and one very playful. But both doing that New York Italian thing. So if you're in New York, I think that's an important style of cuisine that's indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
You have the old world sort of chop houses of New York, the Peter Lugers and Keenses. That if you're going to spend a couple of days there, I might send you to one of those.
Incredible rundown. Mary, you've been amazing. Our final question, actually our second last question, what is your go-to 3-course meal? So it's basically your death row meal.
Of restaurant food or
Anything.
3 courses?
Yeah, so start the main pudding. Yeah.
And
you can match it with a drink if you want.
3 courses of food. Let's see.
Could be more if you want. I mean, if you want to do a little cicchetti and then move into, I mean, Jamie makes the rules there, not me.
The sesame bread and butter at Teresi doesn't look like it's gonna knock your socks off, but it's really just an incredible piece of bread that they make in house. I would have my mother's meatballs. She makes great meatballs. My grandfather made amazing gnocchi, potato gnocchi. That was his sort of signature dish. That was incredible. I would probably have a bite of spicy rigatoni just as a send-off.
You've got to. Even that green risotto I saw you making the other day, that looks fun.
Yeah, that's great.
That looks sexy.
That's great. We're almost out of that season, but it's great. And I have a sweet tooth. I love sweets. I love donuts.
Yeah.
I love an old. I don't want a new style donut though. Like I don't want a lot of stuff on.
You want a funfair donut?
I want like a old school
vendor
jelly donut with sugar on the outside.
You're buying from a creepy old man on the street, but it tastes so good.
Yes, creepy old man on the street donut. Yeah.
But what a great way to go.
Yeah.
Mary, you've been incredible. Our final question is, what song do you want us to play you out with?
Song. Sinatra My Way.
Oh, Mary, you've been incredible. Guys, don't make sure to forget to go to his incredible restaurants all around the world, but especially here in London and his new place opening in autumn. Thank you so much, Mary. That was
Thank
brilliant.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.